never changes. Following their victory in the Second World War, an era of Cold War began between the former Allied governments of the Communist Soviet Union and capitalist United States of America, with the Communist People's Republic of China founded in 1949 to eventually become a third competing faction in this global struggle for power. Though oil and more traditional energy sources were in high demand throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, many also invested in nuclear power, making great technological strides in compact nuclear fusion generators and miniaturized nuclear fission, as well as massive supercomputers, advanced robotics, artificial intelligence, cybernetics, power armor, laser weapons, and genetic engineering. Relying primarily on vacuum tube technology, transistors were invented but never earned widespread use, limiting the advent of microelectronics. As populations grew and resources dwindled, the world's larger factions engaged in resource wars, leading to a growing fear of nuclear apocalypse. Recognizing the severity of this threat, the American government outsourced the survival of their nation to Vault-Tec Industries, who were meant to build underground fallout shelters to save a segment of the population in case of nuclear war. The world's energy crisis then worsened in 2066, when China invaded Alaska in a desperate bid to secure some of the world's last oil fields, starting the Sino-American War as the first ever direct confrontation between nuclear-armed superpowers. Providing their soldiers power armor, suits of metal offering enormous protection and the strength to carry heavy weaponry. This enormous technological advantage allowed the United States to invade mainland China and secure Alaska, so that by 2077, the government in Beijing was on the brink of collapse. Finding great success in their use of anti-communist, pro-capitalist, nostalgic, and nationalistic propaganda, the people of the United States developed a deep consumer culture within a growing nuclear economy, romanticizing a wholesome image of the traditional family living the American dream, allowing the 1950s Americana aesthetic to remain prevalent in the culture, producing similar fashion, food, and entertainment for decades to come. A veteran of the Sino-American War, who fought with power armor on the front lines of Alaska, Cooper Howard contributed to this culture by earning fame as an actor, starring in westerns like The Man from Dead Horse and A Man and His Dog. Marrying the Vault-Tec executive Barbara Howard, Cooper had trouble adapting to the increasingly hardline pro-capitalist, anti-communist propaganda pushed into his projects, but ultimately gave in, even agreeing to do Vault-Tec ads for his wife, creating the famous thumbs up logo that became synonymous with the company. Yet by 2077, Cooper Howard's life and career were in a steep decline, no longer doing his thumbs up pose and working kids' birthday parties alongside his daughter Janie, possibly to keep up with expenses like alimony to his ex-wife. It was at one of these parties on October 23, 2077, that Cooper Howard witnessed the first nuke drop on Los Angeles before chaos erupted, taking off with his daughter on horseback while more bombs dropped in the distance. As the nations of the world launched their nuclear weapons, the Great War began and ended in a matter of hours, resulting in the destruction of human civilization and the death of billions. Securing as many pre-approved residents as possible, Vault overseers and staff locked down their shelters and began implementing the specific plan prepared for their location. On the west coast of the former United States, the three interconnected vaults 31, 32, and 33 did the same, successfully settling their people and cutting themselves off from the rest of the world, with a mission to stay underground for roughly 250 years before returning to the surface on Reclamation Day to restart civilization. For over 2 centuries, the interconnected vaults seemed to thrive, passing on their knowledge and the importance of their mission to each successive generation. But everything changed in 2296, when Lucy McLean of Vault 33 sought a spouse by applying to the triennial exchange between their shelters. An intelligent, good-natured woman trained in self-defense and riflery, Lucy was the daughter of Hank McLean, who originally came from Vault 31, but was now the elected overseer of Vault 33. Losing her mother as a child, Lucy grew close to her father and younger brother Norm, who in some ways was her opposite, lacking enthusiasm and ambition. Approved for marriage, her father arranged a trade of seed and machine parts for a male breeder from Vault 32. With the help of her best friend Steph Harper, Lucy prepared for her wedding, where she married Monty, a handsome man eager to leave the reception and consummate the relationship. Yet as the festivities went on, Norm grew suspicious of the strange-acting residents from Vault 32, perhaps noticing their tattoos and scars, and so left the party to visit the other vault, where he found a resident's corpse decomposing without a leg. Returning, he found the guests revealed as vicious raiders, slaughtering and wreaking havoc across Vault 33. Lucy was stabbed and nearly killed by her new husband, but was able to get away by ripping open his face with a broken glass pitcher. Healed by a stim pack, Lucy armed herself, defended her home, and saved her brother, only to be attacked again by a hideously disfigured Monty, this time saved by her father, Hank McLean. Alerted to a problem, Hank made his way to the Vault 32 entrance, where he was abducted by the false overseer, Lee Moldaver, who mentioned having known Lucy's deceased mother before departing with her unconscious captive and blowing up the tunnel entrance. Approaching the Leadership Council, Lucy requested a search party for her father, but was denied in the interest of Vault security. Determined to find him and learn about Moldaver, her brother and their cousin Chet helped Lucy escape the Vault and embark upon her quest. Sleeping by a campfire that night, she was saved from giant radroaches by a scientist and his dogmeat companion, meeting them again when she visited the town of Philly. Surviving the bombing of Shady Sands in 2182, young Maximus was rescued by the Brotherhood of Steel and eventually trained as an initiate with the rank aspirant, but found himself ignored and beaten by all his peers, save Dane, a fellow aspirant and friend. Desperately seeking a home and family, Maximus proved physically gifted, but struggled inside the classroom, growing furious when his friend was promoted and he was not. Upon learning Dane was sabotaged and wounded with a blade in his boot, Maximus was suspected and interrogated. Though he tried to deny it, his nerves left him struggling to defend himself, only saved when he made an impassioned plea, offering to sacrifice his life for the Brotherhood. His words so impressed Elder Cleric Quintus, he was chosen to replace Dane as squire for Knight Titus. Taking the oath of fraternity, Maximus pledged himself to the Brotherhood and accepted a T branded on his neck, marking him as a squire for Titus. Assigned a mission from the highest clerics of the Brotherhood in the Commonwealth, Titus and Maximus were to search the wilds for a valuable relic stolen from the Enclave by an escaped scientist and his dogmeat companion. Dropped off by Vertibird a few miles from their target area, Titus was attacked by a Yao Guai mutated bear and suffered severe injuries before Maximus dispelled his shock and shot the beast in the head. Furious with his squire for his slow reaction time, Titus began to yell and make threats, even describing how the Brotherhood would kill Maximus for his mistakes. Holding an idealized perception of knighthood, Maximus deemed Titus unworthy and let him die. Though he was betraying the Brotherhood, Maximus believed he could still secure his place in the organization by using his new power armor to complete the mission and capture the relic. Over 2 centuries after watching the bombs drop on Los Angeles, Cooper Howard survived as a ghoul, mutated by high levels of radiation to resemble a rotting corpse, enduring a process that made him more physically resilient, resistant to radiation, and stopped the aging process, allowing him to live indefinitely. Although many ghouls retained their intelligence and personalities, they also ran the risk of turning feral, a condition that could slowly transform them into unthinking zombies that attack humans on sight. At some point, the ghoul Cooper Howard was afflicted by the condition and started turning feral, but successfully earned money and fame as a bounty hunter, allowing him to keep an ample stock of a special drug which halted the transformation. Maintaining his sanity for decades, his line of work and increasingly ruthless personality made him many enemies, including Don Pedro, who captured and tortured the ghoul, burying him alive with an IV drip, pumping in that special drug to keep him from turning feral. In this way, Don Pedro could dig him up once a year for more torture before returning him to ground. Yet the ghoul's salvation came in 2296, when freed by a trio of bounty hunters hoping to secure his help in completing a lucrative job to capture Dr. Siggi Wilzig, a scientist who escaped the Enclave with a powerful item wanted by numerous factions, including the Brotherhood of Steel and New California Republic. Working for the Enclave, Wilzig was highly educated and knowledgeable about the allied organization Vault-Tec, with access to Pip-Boys and information about their fallout shelters. In addition to conducting experiments involving supermutants, this branch of the Enclave also experimented on dogs, allowing Wilzig to save CX-404 and raise her as a companion. Unhappy in his position, Wilzig got in contact with Lee Moldaver and agreed to smuggle out valuable technology, storing a tiny device in the back of his own head for safekeeping. Yet before he could properly orchestrate his escape, he was caught by another scientist and suddenly forced to flee with his dog in the hopes of reaching Moldaver. Though the Ghoul was intrigued by the bounty, he preferred to work alone, killing 2 of his liberators before tying the last to a coffin in the ground. Tracking the bounty to Philly, the Ghoul found the scientist under the protection of a well-paid shop owner who turned the whole town against him. A highly skilled gunslinger with 2 centuries of experience, the Ghoul slaughtered or incapacitated all his enemies, including the dogmeat companion of the scientist, until all that remained was a bright-eyed girl in a vault suit armed with a tranquilizer gun that did not affect him. Yet just as he was about to eliminate her, Maximus arrived in power armor to save Lucy and confront the Ghoul. With the enemy distracted, Lucy agreed to escort the scientist to his destination upon learning he was traveling to meet Lee Moldaver, the woman who invaded the vaults. However, the scientist lost his foot in the fight and knew he would only slow them down, and so took a cyanide pill, instructing Lucy to cut off his head as that held the valuable item needed by Moldaver. After he passed, Lucy did as she was told and continued the journey until attacked by a gulper who ate the head and retreated underwater. Back in Philly, Maximus had trouble using power armor without training, and so the Ghoul won their confrontation, leaving his opponent in the dirt outside town. Healing the scientist's dog with a stim pack, the Ghoul followed the loyal companion as he tracked down his master, first leading to the headless body, and after Lucy, who informed him the head was taken by a gulper. Despite luring the gulper back by using Lucy as bait, he was unable to secure the head, and found the last of his antiferal vials broken after the fight. Deciding to return later for the head, the Ghoul took Lucy to a former Super Duper Mart, where she was sold to an organ dealer for 60 vials of the drug he needed. But when the Mr. Handy servant Snip Snip attempted the surgery, she escaped and freed the shop's captive ghouls, unaware some were feral, resulting in an attack where she emerged as the sole survivor. Leaving the store, she found her ghoul captor collapsed on the ground, starting to turn feral, yet rather than take vengeance, she left him some vials and went on her way. As all this went on, Maximus remained in Philly, where he was contacted by the Brotherhood and impersonated Knight Titus to report the death of his squire. However, this led the Brotherhood to send another, arriving just as Maximus finished defending, repairing, and re-entering his power armor. Learning Thaddeus, one of his old tormentors, was now his squire, Maximus embraced his superior position as they found the scientist's body and tracked down the head. But in the end, Maximus proved more courageous than the real Titus, taking on the Gulper himself and saving his squire's life during the battle. Emerging victorious and finding the head, they celebrated that night, with the foe Titus even branding his squire with a T. This made Maximus comfortable enough to reveal his true identity, but was unable to adequately explain his actions, resulting in a fight where the squire's foot was crushed. But even so, Thaddeus emerged victorious, able to remove the power armor's fusion core, leaving his opponent trapped inside, unable to move. Securing the head, the squire sought a radio tower to contact the Brotherhood. Meanwhile, as Lucy, Maximus, and the Ghoul competed for the head of the scientist, the people of Vault 33 recovered from the raider attack. Having helped Lucy escape, Chet lost his position as gatekeeper, and Norm was demoted to prison server, bringing meals to the surviving raiders in captivity. Making matters worse, Vault residents then learned the water chip was broken, leaving them less than 2 months of clean water. Enraged by all the deaths, Norm hated the raiders, but learned something interesting when he finally spoke to one, told there was something far from innocent happening in Vault 32. Clearing some of the rubble with his cousin Chet, they searched Vault 32 and learned they destroyed themselves roughly 2 years before the raiders arrived. Some of the residents ended their own lives, killed the Overseer, or attempted to enter Vault 31, writing on the walls, "We know the truth," and "Death to management." In the end, they all died, and when Norm checked the Overseer's computer, he learned the raiders opened the vault door from the outside with the Pip-Boy of his mother, Rose McClane. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Sir Dayron of House Ashford, Fred Heartless, Knight of Iron and Ice, Ishmael Ahmed of Shamidiana, and Barachado. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.